Friends, this is Dolores Williams of DW's View. Stand up. We do not stand up for what we believe. Who will? This is the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it. My sponsor helps keep this podcast on the air. And I want to thank my peak performance coach, Ms. Kim Yater. If you're feeling stuck in any part of your life, personal or professional, then you need to contact my coach, Kim Yater. You can contact her for a complimentary strategy call at Calendly, Kim Yater at Calendly, CALENDLY.com, Kim Yater. It's okay to be stuck, but it's not okay to stay stuck. And to my audience, I want to thank you for coming each week and listen to these podcasts. I don't take it for granted. I want to thank you each week, and God bless you. Now, today, I have a special privilege and a special guest. His name is Mr. Chad Stewart. And I want to tell you just a little bit about him because I want you to listen to the podcast when it comes out and read his whole bio. But Chad Stewart was born in Newport Beach, California, has 20 years experience in writing fiction, nonfiction, screenplays. He is an award-winning best-selling author, educator, and global strategist. He is the founder of the prestigious Britfield Institute in Devonfield. Good morning, friends. Help me welcome my friend, Mr. Chad Stewart. How are you today, Stewart?
I'm good. Thank you, Dolores, for having me. Very excited.
Yes. This was quite a blessing. And you have a wonderful book that kind of takes people away, takes you away from all the craziness of the world and just gives you a whole new perspective on life and the importance, what's important. Right. And so we're going to get started. And Chad, first question I want to ask you is, now you were born in Newport Beach, California. Is that where you live now? I know you still live there.
No, I'm in San Diego. I was born in Newport Beach, California. I was back east for about 16 years, Wellesley, Massachusetts. And then I've been back in San Diego for about 10 years.
Oh, okay. Have you always been interested in writing books and making films?
I've always been interested in films and writing, but I didn't, when I was younger, I didn't think that I didn't want to be a writer. And I wasn't actually a great writer when I was younger. Some kids have that gift. I was very artistic. I was very creative. I loved drawing and doing things like that. And I remember we had an exercise for the 6th grade class. Wonderful teacher. She was just amazing. And teachers have such an incredible impact on children's lives. They don't realize it usually, and they don't get that back. But she was amazing, and she gave us this exercise to write a book. It was kind of a big part of our grade for that semester. And what do you write about? Well, you write about what you love and you write about what you know. And so I wrote this fun book called James Bond, Eat Your Heart Out. And I was a 12-year-old secret agent working for the British government. And I was in charge of finding this escaped villain all through Europe. And this is 12 years old when I'm writing this.
Wow.
And I loved it. It was fantastic. And it's like, I had no idea that this stuff just poured out of me. And that's often how it is with children as well as adults, is that unless you're given that opportunity or put in that circumstance, you don't really know the incredible gifts that you have inside you, the amazing creativity that you have inside you. So it was fun, and I think it was kind of one of those moments. But I didn't sit there and say I want to be an author. But by the time I was 18, I started writing movie scripts. I really liked films, and so that's where I got a lot of my training.
Oh, okay. Now, the Britfield and the Lost Crown, that was one of the most awarded and loved fiction books. Yes. And now, did the time that you lived in England, did that inspire you at all with the Britfield series?
Yeah, profoundly. So Britfield and Lost Crown is book 1. It's a 7-book series. It was launched August of 2019, so not that long ago, and launched mostly national, and now we're moving out internationally. But yeah, so the thing is, it goes back to that. You write about what you know and you write about what you love. I think my time in England had a profound effect on me. I've always loved England. I've always been drawn to England. I studied it. I was a British literature major, European history major, specifically in the Romantics during that era and time. And I was a huge fan of the Bronte sisters, of Jane Austen, Charles Dickens. And so living there, being there, visiting there, is all based in the book. And I think that's what's great. I always tell, we do writing workshops. We're doing presentations to schools across the nation. And I tell them, you write about what you know and you write about what you love. So Dolores, if you had written Britfield and Lost Crown, it might have taken place in San Diego. It might have taken place in Hawaii. It might, wherever that location was that you just loved and you connected with. And for me, that's why England is kind of this amazing country. It's got thousands of years of history, and it's sort of impacted, really, in many ways, the entire world. And so it's kind of a great base for book one, and then book two takes place in France. We're getting ready to
Wow.
launch that on July 4th. Book three is in Italy. Book four is in Eastern Europe, Russia. Book five is in Asia, China. Book six is in South America, and then book seven will be in the United States.
Wow.
So it's really this kind of world view. But I'm actually
Wow.
going to places that I really loved. I love France. I love the
Mhm.
history, the castles. I love Italy. The arts and the
Ah.
museums. And so it's my book, so I get to pick where
Yeah.
where it goes, right?
Oh, that is great. That is great. Now Britfield is 10 to 15-year endeavor, and for you that will include 7 books and 7 movies. Now, how do you go about producing the movies? And now, will they be filmed overseas? Will they be filmed here in the United States? How does that work?
Yeah, great question. And really, it's the book has always been sort of designed as a movie, if you will. And it's so funny. I
Mm-hmm.
was doing an interview with these incredibly, I don't normally do it, but they're these really cute younger kids, and their mom, who I've had correspondence with, said, "Hey, they have this little YouTube show. Would you like to be interviewed on it?" And I said, sure. And I'm just sitting here watching this 7 and 10-year-old, and I'm saying, you guys are amazing. I mean, just going out there and doing it.
Yeah.
But it was really funny. She goes, when I was reading book one, and she goes, I had paused. I told my mom I had to return to my movie. And then she goes, I mean, the book. And so it's funny because 90% of the feedback that we've received for book one is from the audience, from kids, from readers, is that it reads like a movie. And I think a lot of that is because of my experience, not only in the film industry, but writing scripts. And it taught me that 3-act structure, plot points, midpoint, and it's a very stringent way to write. It's night and day from writing a fictional novel, because if you're writing a script, every 1 page is 1 minute. So if I'm writing a 90-minute film, it's only 90 pages. I don't have the luxury of expanding or writing big paragraphs, but it's great training. And so, yeah, so it's always been, the whole idea has always been about a film. We've been waiting. Now we're actually we're coming into the development stage for the first Britfield movie. We're very excited about it. In fact, I'm in correspondence with 2 major producers right now, and we do have an opportunity to either go through one of the major studios, which I'm not sure if we'll go that route. I don't have a lot of great things to say about Hollywood per se, or the independent route, which is really no difference. It's just pulling together our own team and keeping complete creative control. And so we'll probably go the independent route. We'll probably start the development this fall. We'll be in pre-production in the spring. And if everything goes well, we'll actually be filming the first Britfield Lost Crown movie in England in the
Okay.
fall of 2022. So that's how it's sort of planned right now. We do believe that Britfield will be one of the most anticipated and one of the most successful movies in cinematic history. And I know that's a bold statement, but it's based on a lot of feedback, a lot of research, and just a general sense of what the audience wants. Hollywood's not delivering it, and they haven't been for years,
Yeah.
nor is even through television. I mean, it's decrepit, and it's really an agenda-oriented,
Oh yeah.
industry. And that's a whole nother, we should come back and just talk about Hollywood, because that's a whole nother thing. But they cannot fill the massive gap that's out there. They never will. And people right now are hungry for real stories. They're hungry about
Yeah.
family values. They're hungry about
Yes.
friendship, loyalty, courage, faith.
Yes.
They're getting saturated and disenchanted with
Oh, yeah.
mysticism, with witchcraft, which is just
Oh, yeah.
garbage, and all this other fanfare crap. And so really, Britfield is just a great family-based book. Takes place in real time. Tom and Sarah, the main characters, they don't have superpowers. They're constantly faced with problems and things they need to solve and figure out and talk and communicate and collaborate and critical thinking. And it has all of that in it. And that's why children are they're just flocking. They love the book. I mean, families love this book. Teachers love this book. Schools love this book.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
the point is it's just, I'm giving the audience what they want. And that's a heartfelt, warm, family-friendly, fast-packed action adventure where I don't need to compromise anything with an agenda or these other kinds of mysticism and sort of heightened fantasy.
Oh, that's great, because I tell you now that the next thing I wanted to talk to you, actually kind of went into it, but now in the times that we live, I know that the American children and children around the world will benefit from reading your book, because our children are so innocent, and I see their innocence being just stolen from them with the education that's happening today. So I know that's another subject for another time,
Yeah.
but I just wanted to lighten it up and have something that would touch children, touch the family with goodness in your book, in your book, in your movie. And I'm glad you're producing that movie before you finish all the books. That's going to be great to tie that, have that movie coming out in the middle of having these books. That
Sure.
is just going to push it forward, I think, even more.
Amen to that.
Yes, that is great. Now, as you just said, Britfield is about the family and friendship and educating readers about geography and history and culture. And that is so critical because all that stuff is just being skewed and it's, I don't know. I just think what you're doing is just great, Chad. And you go all over the world, including France, Italy, Eastern Europe, Russia, Asia, and China, South America, and then back to America in these books. And how do you plan to make it a household name for people who haven't heard?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'd say the thing on the educational front, just to let the audience know, is we started 2 years ago. We started a national tour, and I ended up driving about 9,000 miles, 23 states, over 180 schools, and probably around 40,000 students. And we would come into auditoriums, 300, 400 strong, fourth through eighth graders. Can you imagine that? Yikes,
Yeah.
right? And just do these really fun presentations. We talked a little bit about the book, but we talked about creativity. We talked about storytelling and writing, and we had very, very engaged audiences where 40 minutes into it you could hear the pin drop because kids are amazing at that age, like you said, and while they're very vulnerable, which is what the enemy's doing and attacking them and hurting their innocence, they're also amazing, and they're all gifted.
Yes.
They're all creative. They're all very unique individuals, especially at that age, 10 to 12, and they just have a wonderful amount of ideas and creativity.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to fuel that and encourage them, and we'll do like Q&A sessions with 11 or 12-year-olds for like 30, 40 minutes at the end. And we're still doing that. We're actually doing a virtual tour now, which we're actually taking globally, and we actually have booked our first school in England, which is kind of cool. For the
Oh,
fall. That takes place about an hour and a half
yes.
from Weatherly Orphanage up in Yorkshire, England.
Yeah.
But anyway, so how we're kind of doing our idea with the making it a household name, first in the United States and then abroad, is really hitting all those main areas. Number one is schools, and so there's about 100,000 middle school and elementary schools. That's our demographic, not high
Yeah.
school, not kindergarten. And it's really important, no matter whoever's listening, whatever you're marketing, really know your audience and really know your demographic. And first secure that beachhead, as they say, and then you can expand outward. So we've been communicating with probably about half of those schools across the nations through email campaigns. Especially with the author visit. I mean, it's great. It doesn't cost the school anything to bring in a best-selling and award-winning author. And what a wonderful, event to have at your school. Before it was in person, now it's virtual, even easier. And the virtual tour has been very successful. We just wrapped it up this last week. But it's great. It's a lot easier on me, but it's like, if the kids students are at home, that's fine. We had one school where we had something like 230 different students online at one time. Again, too, I can't see their picture. It's a presentation, but we'll do the Q&A at the end. And I think I had like 300 questions at the end. I was on for about 45 minutes, or they could be in the classroom, which is great. The kids don't have to get up or move. The teacher just flips on the thing, or they can assemble in an auditorium. And so part of that is the campaign. We're working with a major retailer right now that's specifically geared towards schools, and they're in about 55,000 schools throughout the nation. And they ran their first pilot program with Britfield Lost Crown, which he loves. The gentleman that works for the company has been there for 8 years, and he says, in 8 years, I've never seen a book like this, which is a great compliment and very exciting. But he really wants to use Britfield Lost Crown as the lead for middle schools. And so we have a great opportunity to eventually roll out into thousands of these schools. So you sort of have our continual campaign with emails, going out to really just librarians, principals, mostly our librarians. We love our librarians, but librarians, middle school librarians, elementary librarians, giving them gifts as far as resources, creative resources, links, things that they can do. And so there's that kind of campaign. There's the retail campaign. There's our grassroots, virtual author visit. We're also working with, or corresponding with over 180,000 church influencers across the nation. We have a
Yeah.
massive media campaign, radio, print, television. We've done a lot of interviews in the last 2 or 3 weeks. One was with a large conservative Canadian news station up in Canada. We did another interview with a prominent podcaster in England, and we have another one with him coming up next week. Local radio. So it's kind of just it's exciting. We did another podcast with a prominent researcher in New York. So I've done about over 100 interviews, and so media is another component, and so and then just a lot of other strategies, moving forward. So there's a lot of moving parts, and as you said, this is a 10 to 15 year endeavor for us. So I think people kind of like they launch something and they think, okay, I've got this 3-month marketing plan, and it's like it'll take you just 3 months to warm up, figure out what works and what doesn't work. And just for book one, we've always had at least a 3-year marketing plan just for book one. And so and now we're gearing up for the launch of book two, which is exciting, and that helps kind of reinvigorate it too, because it'd be hard to like just market one book, one product for like 10 years, right? So as you're launching book two, it also complements book one, and then you're starting to get the buzz going for the movie. And so it's just we're pulling a lot of triggers. We work with a great team. We've got a lot of great outside contractors, a lot of great partnerships. We've partnered with American Heritage Girls, and we did a big campaign for them last summer, which was exciting. We've worked with MOPS International, and the list kind of goes on. We did something with the Family Journal, and so just a lot of great national, international partnerships, media, the tour, and 100 other things. So.
Oh, that is wonderful. Now, with all that you're doing, I have a question. How in the world you have time to go go? Are you going to school to pursue your master's in science and your PhD? How are you having time to fit all that in?
Yeah, that's semi on hold. It's I was just finishing up my master's, almost done with it. You always have to kind of do the master's and then the PhD, which is fine, just more school. But I've kind of put that on hold. I'm looking forward to returning that next year, probably maybe in the fall or maybe next year. And again, too, it's not a full-time thing, so it can be overwhelming. But I think it's really important to have balance, as you well know, in your life. And so this is very absorbing. I probably work 70, 80 hours a week on the Britfield movement and campaign, Monday through Sunday, if you will. I mean, I do take breaks, of course, and Sunday for family. But needless to say, something like that with the education thing, it's nice because it just gives me a break. It removes me from that world. I do it not because I need to do it, or because a lot of people get their PhD because they want to teach or publish or do whatever. I do it. I've always pursued education because I'm a student of life. I've never done learning, and I like the challenge of it. I like meeting new people. I'm up at the Drucker School of Management. It's through the Claremont Consortium, which is kind of built on the Oxford and Cambridge model, which in England. And so it's great. It's a great collaboration of 7 of prominent schools up there. And so I just remember in one of my classes, I think there was 3 Americans in the class. It was amazing. I have people from Hong Kong, from Japan, from you name it. From all over the world, and it was just fascinating. It was just great. We'd get into groups. I got to talk with people that I'd never talked with or meet. And so it's more than just sort of getting a degree. It's being challenged. It's reading books I probably would never read. It's writing papers. It's thinking analytically, and it's meeting people. So
it's wonderful. It sounds wonderful. Now, I know that your outreach to kids with the shutdown and all, does that go global, or is it just in the United States?
What's that now? I'm sorry.
Are you reaching out to students globally, because the whole globe's been shut down? Are you reaching out to people overseas as well, or is that your virtual thing more or less in the United States?
Yeah, great question. And it was amazing. Just as a point of reference, as we were continuing with our Britfield book tour or school tour last year, we did about 20 states at the time, and I'd driven all the way to Memphis, Tennessee, and I was very excited because I wanted to get to the Midwest. I sort of did all of the West Coast, Oregon and Washington. I did a lot of the South, and I also did up there kind of by Illinois and the heartland, Nebraska, Kansas, very interesting, Iowa, Colorado, Arizona. And so I was really excited to get to that section, and that's when this whole thing had happened. And so there I was in Memphis, Tennessee. I'd just done 4 schools in 2 days, back to back. Great schools. I was in Germantown, which is a part of Memphis, and it was just a great area, great schools, great students, great kids, great teachers. And then I had to turn around and drive all the way back, and I was just like,
Oh my
you know,
goodness.
and it's so funny because I wanted to get to all the way up to, I couldn't wait to get to Chicago. That'd have been great. I wanted to get to Ohio and Michigan. I couldn't wait to get back east to New England. So needless to say, through that process, like so many, we've adapted and changed. And while so much of this seems bad on the surface, God can take and do anything
Yes.
with anything and transform it. And then I remember, just as this whole thing was starting, I could name 10 things that were good from it and that God would use from it. And I thought it
Yes.
brought a lot of us closer together as family. I think it made us appreciate what we had, just something as going down to the park or working out at a gym that we just take for granted. So, I think there's a lot of benefit to it, as bad as this sort of quote unquote facade of this fake pandemic has been. But needless to say, it's been transformational with the virtual, because it's like we were pitching the virtual author visit 18 months ago, but no one was taking it. Not one teacher understood it. Like, we didn't get anything, because they didn't get it. And now, literally, globally, everyone is used to the Zoom calls or the Skype
Yes.
or what we're doing right now, or the presentations. And so for us, it's transformed our entire business model for the tour in a beneficial way. I mean, I was kind of getting to the point where I was getting burned out. I mean, I couldn't keep going and doing that. Now it's like, it was great. This semester we had 2 schools in Florida. And it would have been really hard to get to Florida. We had one in Indiana. We had one in Georgia. We're working on one in Pennsylvania. So little by little, we're covering the entire United States. Now, with that said, we are now shifting it globally. And starting in the fall, we're going to focus on Canada, not too far of a stretch. And
Yeah.
then England, and then probably Australia would be great. And then Eastern Europe. And so we've got sort of a strategy over the next 12, 18 months to really take this whole thing globally. As with anything, it takes time. It's quality, over quantity. And so we take it in small steps. We kind of walk before we run. And now that we've perfected the model, that we've sort of, if you will, saturated the United States, we're now moving abroad, and it's exciting. It is interesting because it's a time thing. And especially with like England, I can only do, there's only so early I can get up and you know what I mean? So it's a very tight time period. With Australia, I have a lot more flexibility. And then the farther east that I get into Eastern Europe, I'll have more flexibility and stuff. So, but the thing is I won't get up at 4 a.m. to do it, because if I do that, it throws off my whole day and I lose a whole day, and I can't sacrifice that. So.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm just elated that you have this book and that you're going around the country and around the globe with it, because I just look at what's happening. This is just it's refreshing, is what it is. Now you have I know you have deals that you're doing all the way around the world for your Britfield series. Now, how do you anticipate students? I know you have your worldwide tour or whatever that's going to be coming. How do you think students around the globe will receive Britfield?
It's interesting. We're already available in England, Germany, and Canada, and then in July we move into India. How cool is that?
Okay.
So
Wow.
that's exciting, and really it's just using the Amazon platform
Mm-hmm.
for now. We also did our first rights deal, international foreign rights deal with I can't talk about it, but a major, which one it is, but a major country.
Yeah.
In Europe. And so we're really excited about that. That opens up the door to Europe for us. I've got an incredible literary agent that deals with these rights. And so usually what happens, I'm answering your question in a longer way, but usually what happens is, people see like a book in 50 languages or 75 languages, and they think, oh my gosh, the publisher translated it in all those languages. And that's usually not the case. The publisher will do is will sell the rights to a particular country, like France. And so France will take it, they'll own the copy for France, for that market, and then they have their own translators, and they'll translate the whole book into theirs, and then they'll get it out there. And so usually what happens is the publisher is paid a lump sum and then a percentage for every book that's sold. So that's kind of how it works. So, and we also have the Bologna book fair coming up in June 14th through 17th. So I'm really excited about it, because Britfield and Lost Crown and Britfield and the Rise of the Lion will be at that fair with with my agent, and she's extremely well connected. So within just that one weekend, we may have, 3, 5, 10 offers from countries, because what it is it brings the publishers and
Yeah.
all the franchises and retailers to one place. And so if they like it and they're excited about it, then they'll make you an offer. So that's one way to get it out there. Now the feedback will be interesting, and I don't know, what to expect. I think the thing is about Britfield is that, number one, it's a timeless and classic story. So it's not an American story, although it's written by an American. That I feel that I'm more British than I am American. And the last name was Stewart, so we have some links there. But it's the way that it moves, and it flows, and it runs, and it's like in different countries. So you have book one in England, so that's great. But England obviously is very appealing to around the world in many ways, with just its history, its royalty, its fascination. India, obviously, Australia. I'm not saying necessarily Australians like England or the Queen, but for that, it's part of their fatherland, if you will, or it's part of their homeland. So I'm just saying it has that kind of impact. India would be huge. I just think that the thing is it's about family, friendship, loyalty, and courage, right? It's about faith.
Yes.
And so it doesn't matter what the demographic is, what the background is, even what their beliefs are. Everybody believes in family. Everyone can relate to. It's a David and Goliath type of story with Tom and Sarah against, technically the British government and a police force and a very, very smart, articulate, and clever detective that are chasing them and trying to get them, capture them and put them back in this orphanage. And it's like, number one, they don't want to be in the orphanage. Number two, they don't belong in the orphanage. You know what I mean? And so it's, people relate to that, and they're rooting for them, and that underdog story. And so, and all Tom cares about is if his parents are alive, he wants to find them. And then the family connections that they have with the orphans and Tom and Sarah, and the wonderful friendship they forge, and people along the way that help them. And we all relate with that, no matter what language, demographic, or country you're in. And so I think it will I think it'll transcend. And so I can't speak more to it because I haven't had feedback, necessarily from Britain or Canada. I know we're selling books, but I haven't really received feedback. We're not following it, but we'll see. I know right now in the U.S. and in general, we've scored like a 9.03 out of a scale 1 to 10 across all demographics. And that means from 7 to 93. Our youngest reader's been 7. Our oldest has been 93. They've all loved the story. Loved it. We've had 12-year-olds that have read it in 4 or 5 hours. Even book 2, there was just this massive anticipation for it. And although it doesn't launch until July 4th, we've been releasing it. There's like a pre-order site on our website to our fan base and to a lot of schools. It's now being taught in some schools right here in California this semester. And they love it. We've had families that sat around over the weekend and read the whole thing. Book 2 is 474 pages. Yeah. So I don't think I could read it in a weekend, Yeah. So it just has that. It just, it's the writing style. It's the heart behind it. It's the authenticity of it. It's the relatability to the story. The thing with like the Harry Potter series, which is really what we're against and what we're trying to counter, and which will eventually outsell, is that kids can't relate to it. It might be fun and excited. They get caught up in all this stuff, but they can't relate to it. They're not witches. When they're in a bind, they can't just take out a wand and solve their problem or say some spell and make themselves invisible. Oh yeah. That's fantasy. It's also demonic, but it's fantasy. And with Britfield, it's like the real problems. It's like when Tom and Sarah are hungry, they got to figure out, how do we get some food? If they need to travel and get somewhere, how are we going to get there? Do we walk? Yes. Do we take the train? If we don't have the money to get on the train, do we sneak on the train? Could someone give us a ride? It's all these things. Where are we going to sleep tonight? It's cold. And so it's just all these different things that they're constantly faced with. And it's just through critical thinking and communication and collaborating. Sometimes they have the right answers. Sometimes they have the wrong answers. But the whole book has heart, and it's really about solving problems, and courage, and staying with it and believing, and so it's a very powerful narrative that transcends. So.
Yeah. Now, when you're talking about Harry Potter, now is the Harry Potter producers, are they aware of your Britfield book, you think?
Probably not yet. Not yet. They will be. Yeah, we're kind of, it would be called like the strategy we've been rolling out with in some ways is kind of like a slow burn. And what it means is it's quality over quantity. It's not a gunshot approach where it's like you you spend a ton of money and you get the word out there, and then within 1 week, this is kind of like typical movies, right? The movie's starting to come up, boom, big campaign, and whether it succeeds or it fails, and then it's gone and it's forgotten. For us, it's just building, building, building. We've spent a lot of time just in the United States focusing on it. You do have to remember that we've had a global shutdown for 16 months. Mm-hmm. And if our two biggest customers are schools and retail was flat. I mean, most of the independent bookstores were closed. Most of all the schools were closed. And, last semester was just chaotic for teachers. God bless them. And so, so we've been facing that. And if it was just the United States, we could have pivoted and gone to a different country and focused on that and then come back. So, but little by little, we're burning word of mouth. I'd say within 18 months they'll know, and the thing is, we don't need them to know. We don't care if they know. We don't need their approval.
Yes.
we don't need Hollywood's acknowledgement. We're making one of the greatest films in cinematic history. We're building one of the greatest series in literary history. It's one of the most awarded books right now in children's fiction, and that's happened in 12 to 18 months. That's unheard of. We're actually, Britfield and Lost Crown Book 1 is actually being taught in schools right now across the nation. There's a Christian private school up in Spokane, Washington. There's multiple schools in Dallas. Just across the nation, here in San Diego, here in California, that have adopted this in, because we have an 83-page study guide based on national standards. So when Britfield comes in, guess what we're doing? We're knocking out one of those other crap books. And so that's kind of our long game. Our long strategy is eventually that Britfield is in every one of those libraries. It's in the reading programs. It's what they're reading now, not this other utopian garbage and agenda-oriented crap that the school system is trying to shove down kids' throats. I mean, that's what we're here to literally destroy, and we will destroy it. We're trying to bring creativity back into the classroom, and so.
Yeah, now I want to ask you, now you expanded the Britfield Institute through 2020, and then you refine your focus to the Title I schools and promoting literacy. Now you designed literacy in a box for Title I schools, including workshops, resources, tutoring, all that. Now, have you started with that? Is that working yet, or is that something that's still in the process?
Yeah, the Institute was actually founded in 2019, and then we received our nonprofit status last year, about February 2020. And I'm not necessarily for nonprofit. I think, especially if you're a church, you should never be a C13. But for us and what we're doing, we sort of needed it for grants, for eventual grants. And for write-offs and for sponsorships and things like that. So it had been a long process. We have a wonderful business plan. We have a wonderful strategy. We have all the programs ready to go and roll out. We have like a wonderful 5-hour writing workshop. We have a wonderful 5-hour creativity workshop, and that we could bring into a classroom or a school. We have done some pilot programs in Dallas. We did 4 Title I schools in Dallas, which was great, very successful. And I had hired someone last year, right around August, I think it was, and had been working with the Institute throughout last fall. But I think it's just been very, very difficult with the shutdown. And I know nonprofits are suffering like crazy, and grant money's gone. And we've really honestly I've been funding it, and we've been funding it through Britfield, and that's fine. At the end of the day, we will fund it. And as Britfield succeeds, a lot of those revenues will go into the Britfield Institute to come into classrooms, to teach these wonderful workshops, to get kids excited, to get their minds stimulated, to give them opportunity. Everything's about opportunity. It's about environment and opportunity. The whole thing about genetics and certain genes and kids being smarter than other kids is really bunk and crap. Most kids are born exactly the same. Kids are very, very intelligent. They're very inquisitive. Because they're all formed in God's image. God doesn't make mistakes. And so some kids might not be, as excelling in math, which math really doesn't count for much of anything, although it's pushed as if it counts for everything. What I mean by that is how important is math in the rest of your life? I was an architect, and I was in banking and investment, and I never needed anything beyond normal math, but I would have loved to take some music classes or some creativity classes or some more writing classes, because that's the stuff that's going to stimulate and you're going to use for the rest of your life. But so yeah, so we're hoping that we'll just see what the Lord has planned for us this year. I mean, the thing is, I think there was something like 30,000 Title I schools in the United States. 23,000. And so our goal, God willing, in the next 8 to 10 years is to be in all of them. And by being inside them, we're offering these opportunities, resources, free books to kids. I mean, I read one statistic that said for underprivileged children that live in poverty, only 1 out of 300 have their own book, have a book.
Oh.
A book, just a book that they can call their own, a purchased book or a given book, regardless of what book it is. They don't have books. We want to make sure they all have books. And obviously not just Britfield, but but other books, fun books and stuff. So I mean, we have some amazing plans of what we're going to do. I mean, people complain about what's happening in the world, and I get that, but it's just like, be the change that you want. And I really mean that. And I'm not trying to steal that quote, but it's true. And that's what we're doing. We've all been given extraordinary talent. So whether you feel that you're talented or not, you are. Whether you feel like you're gifted or you're not, you are. And it doesn't matter what age you are, whether you're 8 or 80. I love, there's a great quote that says, it's never too late to become what you were born to be. And that can change by having the right moment, the right opportunity. But every little voice matters. Every little action matters. If you were born to be a great mom, raise those kids like they've never been raised before. Make sure they have every opportunity to just going out and going to the park and going to a museum and going to the beach and talking about it and hanging out and doing fun things and going to the library and watching really good stuff on television, whatever it is, you know what I mean? And we can talk too about homeschooling and the homeschool movement if we have time, because that's a revolution that's happening right now. But anyway, so that's kind of, that's where my passion is. That's where my heart is the Title I schools, is the underprivileged schools. To pierce them, to penetrate them, to instill in those kids. We've already transformed thousands of children's lives just through what we've been doing across the nation. I know it because I hear it daily, from teachers, from librarians, even from, just hundreds of cards that will get mailed to us.
Oh yeah.
Thank you so much for coming, or I was so inspired, or I want to write now, or I want to do something extraordinary. Just, that's all kids need. Look back to one of your times in your life where you had a profound moment, and it probably wasn't anything major. It was a movie that you saw, or it was a teacher that you had, or like me with that writing assignment at 12 years old that stuck with me. And even though it was kind of subconscious for a long time, that experience of just being given a challenge, having a blank page and filling it with words. Here I am, 40 years later, and where does book one take place? In England, about a fast-paced adventure that's traveling eventually around the world. That all came from James Bond, Eat Your Heart Out. You know what I mean? So that's the kind of impact the right things can have.
Oh yeah. Well, I tell you, my grandson Bobby took that book to school when he was in elementary school, and his teacher read the whole book to the class and thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah. So I was happy he had the experience of taking his book to school and sharing it with his teacher and reading it to the whole class.
I love it. Yeah, we've had just amazing stories. It was really cute. We had one girl, Iris. She's where is she? She's in Maryland, and she loved book one, and she was so inspired by it. She's read it like 2 or 3 times, and she turned her whole room into an explorer's room. And I'm like, I don't know what that looks like, but I thought, how cool is that? Better than witchcraft, right? Or superheroes. And so just amazing stories that have come into us. I think I was sharing earlier that I have a great story. One mother, like, they love book one so much, and they read it as a family. And so they were so excited to get book two, and they finally got it. It arrived, but her husband and the father was traveling, and so they had to like hold on to it and wait for 2 days. And when he got back, they started reading it together as a family around the fire. And she thanked me. She said, I can't tell you how wonderful this is, that I am giving these kids memories that they will remember long after we are gone. And we just have seen that kind of impact with Britfield. And the other story was that the parents had read book one and created their own Britfield game, and they all became characters. And I just thought, gosh, I would love to hear more about that. How cool is that? So it's just having this amazing transformational impact, on families and on schools. One librarian I was talking with a couple of weeks ago up in Colorado, because we're in great communication with them all. We really have built this wonderful rapport with schools and teachers across the nation. But she says, I can't keep the book on the shelf, because she has like 3 or 4 copies. She goes, it comes in, then it goes out. But she goes, I've noticed that Britfield has this impact on literacy in such a way that kids that struggle reading somehow can get interested and read Britfield. And you're talking boys and girls that just have never read a book. I had one teacher last week, I think it was, in San Antonio, Texas. She goes, there's a child here that is struggling, and I gave him Britfield, and he read it. She said it was the first book he read. Can I buy book 2? And I said, I'll just send him book 2.
Yeah.
And so I think he has it now. And so I mean, this is what we're experiencing, daily and across the nation. And now we're going to be taking it globally and stuff. So it is.
Well,
it's planting a lot of seeds. Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I'm so happy that you're having that impact on children. As I said, their innocence is so important, to keep them innocent, because, you have to teach children to do bad things and to think bad about other people. That has to be taught, because they just don't gravitate that way. Yeah. They come here in this world, and just like God created them, they're just natural and just naturally gravitate to people and to each other. They don't look at where you're from or any of that stuff. Yeah. Now
we all have to get involved as a nation, locally, nationally. That if you're aware of or have God's called you to it, and you're aware of any district, any school district, any principal, any teacher, any union that is putting this garbage and crap and communistic stuff and this sexualization, they need to be hunted down and ripped out of that position by their neck. We cannot tolerate this insipid cancer anymore. And if you're called, you need to stand up and you need to do something about it today, tomorrow. Get together with powerful groups, sue them into oblivion, or march in there, take over those positions, become teachers, become principals, become union, take offices. We need to do that as a conservative Christian nation. We need to take back what the enemy has literally ripped from our hands, especially when it comes to kids. And that's no joking matter. This has to stop. The die is cast, the line is drawn. So,
you're preaching to the choir. I totally agree with you, and it just angers me.
Yeah.
When I see what's happening to children, what they're being taught, sex,
no more,
critical race, all the stuff that's
it's all nonsense. It's all crap. Nope, it's all nonsense. It's all crap. Yeah. It's all straight from the devil. The devil will keep going until he's stopped. Period.
Yeah.
You can't just knock them out or have someone step down from a position. They need to be prosecuted. They need to be hunted down. They need to be found and held accountable and responsible and removed in any particular way that you want to remove them. But the time is now. The time is now. It's it.
Right.
This is it.
You're
now.
Right, because it's on steroids.
It is. It is. And they'll keep going. It's what they do. It's what they do. You can't reason with them.
No.
They'll keep going. I mean, these are democrats. They're demonized. I mean, literally. I mean, it's so anyway.
But we have to tell the truth, because so many people don't even realize what's going on in the schools and the evil that's been taught to babies, these babies in school. I call them babies. Loud. I mean,
5-year-olds. Are you kidding me?
Yes.
I mean, that whoever it is, they need to be hung.
Yeah.
When you touch innocence like that, you need to be hung. So, and they will be. I want to tell you something. There's a reckoning coming, and every one of none of them will get away with what they've been doing.
That's right.
None of them. We know who they are, and literally, the irony is this: that it is by God's grace that they still breathe, because there are millions of us, myself included, that are just waiting for God's signal, and these people will be wiped off the face of the earth. I cannot say that enough. It is by God's grace that He's letting them breathe for another minute. But the devil, remember, the devil is this: he's a speck of dust in God's eyes. A speck of dust. He's an insect. So stand up to him. Have boldness, courage, faith, strength.
That is so true. That's right. The church, those that call themselves a church, have to stand
up. Remnant. It's the remnant
these
now.
Innocent ones. Yes. Yeah. You're right. You're absolutely right. Now, you talked about the book fairs that you have coming up.
Sure.
I know you have one in Bologna in June 14th to 17th. Now, that's in Northern Italy. How do these come about, these book fairs? Now, the other one is in Frankfurt in October. So how do these book fairs come about? Are they already scheduled and you just get involved with them? How
it's through my agent. So it's what she does. It's interesting. She's from New York. and just has a great literary background, working with top publishing houses. She's based out of LA, and she now lives in France, which is kind of cool. And so I love that she's over there in Europe. And so when we talk, it's early my time. So I think she's 9 hours ahead. But yeah, so these are sort of like the what would you call it? The Grammys, and then the well, not the Grammys, it would be called the Frankfurt is like the Oscars. That's in October, right? And then the one in Bologna is sort of like the Golden Globes. That's what I was trying to say.
Oh, okay.
So it's a big one. It's great. It's huge, specifically in children and young adult fiction. And so it's just a great place to be. And Britfield book 1 and book 2 will be there. So that's very, very exciting. So I'm really excited about it because a lot could come from that. And then Frankfurt is the big one. And I know that the one in June is going to be virtual, unfortunately, but it's still fine because people are, it's a lot easier. We'll see about Frankfurt more than likely. It might be virtual again, or it might be in person. Needless to say, these are huge events for us, and pray for us because, it'd be great.
Yeah.
Britfield needs to be in every country. It needs to be in the hands of every kid because everything about it is about family, friendship, loyalty, and courage. I mean, it's just amazing story. And when Britfield's in the hand of a kid, another book isn't. And they're not on their tablet, and they're not gaming. And we're seeing with Britfield, and I do believe that the Harry Potter series had this impact on kids, unfortunately in a negative way. But it really brought about this sort of reading revolution again, because you're having kids, 12-year-olds reading 400, 500, 600-page books. It didn't matter how long the books were; the kids were reading them until the end, and got them back engaged in reading. And so we're seeing that Britfield is doing that again. And I'm not trying to increase my page count, but my stories kept getting bigger. I'm almost done with book 3 right now.
Okay.
It's called Britfield and the Return of the Prince. It takes place in Italy, and that'll be about 530 pages. That'll be launched next year, about this time.
Oh, okay.
So very exciting. So you're going to start to see a lot more consistency with the Britfield books coming out, and then the movies to follow. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about that. Excited about the movies, and would love to have some movies that you can actually go to see.
I ask people this. Can you name 10 great films you've seen in the last 10 years? I mean ones that came out in the last 10 years. Can you name them? And I personally can't, but because it's gotten that bad, and that's how the enemy is. They'll always push the envelope, and the irony. And again, too, it'd be fun just to come on and do another one of these and just talk about the film industry and wake people up so they really understand. So they know really who's behind the film industry, who founded it, what their goals are, who runs it. And even Walt Disney, the secrets behind that place and him. And there's a lot out there. And Dran Reese does a lot of good stuff on this.
Oh, yeah.
Very well informed on this through Salt and Light. But I mean, the funny thing is about Hollywood is they're bankrupt, and they've been bankrupt for a while because they're putting out crap. And a film has to make 3 to 5 times the amount that it was. So if I budgeted a film for 50 million, I would need to make 150 million. But I'd also need to make more because I'd put another 25 million in for marketing the film. So now I'm 75 million into it. So you see a film and you're like, oh, look at that. It was made for $100 million and it did 150. It's like, no, they lost about $100 million. And
how can they keep operating like
that? Because they're all interconnected with international banks. They're all so that there's non-paying loans here. There's write-offs here. There's bankruptcies. It's mergers. It's all a big chess game, if you will, a big maze. They're all connected. There's not like Disney and Warner Brothers and 20th Century Fox as if they're different. They're not. They're all these guys sit on the same board. They're all part of the same clubs, and they're all part of the same agenda. And so they don't care about producing family-friendly and godly movies. What did they do after The Blind Side? That was a film that was made for $30 million and did $300 million worldwide. What did that tell you? It told you, number one, there was a huge audience out there for family-friendly type of films, and just a great story. It was really a simple story at that. What did they do after that? Nothing. That was an accident. And you'll see a film and you're like, oh my gosh, it's almost there, but there was that nude scene. Or, oh, why did the guy have to use profanity? And they know statistically, we have all the research, that every single film that you remove a nude scene, you'll make more money. Every single profanity word that you remove from a film, you make more money. If you take an R and put it into a PG-13, you make more money. And I'm talking millions of dollars. And they'll say sex sells. No, actually, again, anything that comes from it is a filthy lie. No, sex doesn't sell.
No.
And
No,
never
it doesn't.
has.
And actually, it turns people off because, you know, if I hear people cursing in a movie, I don't even want to see it. I don't want to hear it.
No, and they know that, and it's meant to do that because it's to shock you. It's to shock you. It's to shock you, and it's also to numb you. You know, with little. It's again, it's a great analogy, but it's the frog in the pot of water. You know, if the thing was boiling hot, the frog would jump out. If you had this film with all this graphic stuff and all these profanity words at once, you'd go, whoa, what is that? Shut it down. And everyone would raise up and complain. Little by little, year by year, decade by decade, even on television now. It's just garbage. And they've got to get the homosexual agenda in there that makes me sick and want to vomit.
And everything.
I mean, it's like it's 1% of the entire world. And even that's a stretch. And yet they're pushing it to be so prominent. And you have no idea. And all the statistics are out there for that lifestyle, how destructive that lifestyle is. Set aside on children that are adopted, but on that couple, the diseases that are spread, their life expectancy is 40% less by being involved in that. I mean, everything behind it is unnatural, it's disgusting, and it's destructive, not just to humanity, but to the very people that are involved in it. Guess who's behind it? Hollywood, and they love it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And and it's tough because I like watching shows and stuff. I've been watching a great show right now called Burn Notice, and it's actually good. It's an action adventure stuff. It's 10 years. It was done 10 years ago. I have to keep coming back to films and stuff. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's got a very great family oriented. I mean, there's a few series out there. Even Blue Bloods is staying within a certain parameter that's not too, you know, again, I'm not trying to promote, but I'm saying there are a few shows out there, but it's like there's some that were like really great. They've got the right stars, and then here comes the agenda, and I'm like, I'm out, I'm done, you know, and that's what Hollywood does. It's like they have great writers, they've got great actors, and they've got really wonderful cinematography and scene by scene and stuff, and then they get you in, you know, couple episodes, maybe even a season, and you're like, oh, I'm hooked, this is great. And then it's this thing that comes in,
and they just ruin it.
And they do. And don't compromise, don't watch it. I mean, if that happens, I'm out, I'm done, it's over. You know, don't watch the garbage, you know. And you'll see these relatively popular shows suddenly gone because it's it turned off.
Can't tolerate goodness.
But they'll keep going until they're shut down. They'll keep going. What I'm saying is it's not based on money. Hollywood is not based on money. They have an endless stream of financing.
So they don't care. My goodness. Oh, well, this is so insightful and so great and so wonderful and just refreshing to have moved to a little bit different page, a lighter load, and to share something that's just wonderful. And Chad, I want to thank you for.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much for agreeing to come on an interview. And would you like to share any final words, how people can contact or anything like that? Because you can, if you have something that you want to get included in your bio at the end, whatever you want to get included when Liam does the write up and put it on with the recording, then we can put that on there. So just let me know so I can get it to him. If you want to say something verbally right now to where people can contact or whatever you want to share.
I'd say, I mean, it's, so, you know, we need your prayers, we need your support. So, you know, by buying the book on Amazon or through our website is great. It's great to read for adults as well as kids or grandkids. It makes a great gift. I look at these as the Willy Wonka gold ticket because they're just wonderful. The kids just love them. Adults love them. I've had so many of my own friends that have just like gotten involved in reading it. And the funny thing is that 55% of the young adult audience are adults. So that supports us a lot. Check out the BritfieldInstitute.org. And we have tons of information on there. We have free resources. And we also have a wonderful writing workshop coming up June 21st through the 25th. So if you're interested in writing, or storytelling, it's wonderful. We did it last summer very successfully. We had people from all over the nation. It's great for all ages. So we have a lot of students. We have a lot of adults from different parts of the United States and abroad. We had someone from South Africa.
Wow.
And they're great. They're a really nice power pack. We take it. It's 5 days. It's 1 hour a day. That's all recorded. And then I do Q&A at the end. So sometimes I'll be on for an hour answering questions. And we go through everything.
Is that here in San Diego?
Oh, it's virtual. It's a virtual writing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you can do it anytime, anywhere in the
okay.
world. It's recorded, so if you miss a
Oh,
session, you can
that's
rewatch
great.
it. Yeah, and
So
so I'm
June
excited.
21st, wait, June 21st
To
to,
the 25th. Yeah, so it's if you go to our Britfield.com website and look under our blog,
Mhm.
BLOG blog post, it's all the information's there, and then you can just click on and sign up. So
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's wonderful. That is great. Well,
yeah,
thank you again.
oh,
And
you're
now
welcome.
I'm going to go ahead and thank my audience for coming one more time. This has just been, gosh, I hope people will enjoy listening to you. And we will keep you in prayer. And
Thank
to my
you.
audience.
Very, very, very important.
Yes, yes. I want to thank my audience for coming and listening each week and ask people to please subscribe to my channel and share this message, dear friends. That's my challenge. Just share it and subscribe. And if you want to be a sponsor, love to have you sponsor DW's View. And my last challenge, as I say each week, dear friends, if we do not stand up for what's right, and if we do not stand up for what we believe,